Good morning, everyone. I've got a few words this morning to say about the Florida school shooting, a few choice words, I might say. And I'm going to try to keep it brief, but very well may go 15 minutes on this thing. But first of all, let me say 19 people dead. One of the top 10 school shootings in the nation. But if you really want to know, this one is a little one. There will be, unless people in charge get off their ass and do something, take appropriate measures to keep this from happening, there's going to be a school shooting takes place, and it's going to be over 100, possibly a couple hundred dead. Now, I predict that that's going to happen, and it will happen. There's absolutely no question about it. It will happen unless people in charge get off their ass and take appropriate measures to keep this from happening. Number one, appropriate measures is you need to put some voluntary guards in these schools. They should be armed with perhaps pepper spray or some non-lethal method. You don't need a gun to take down a gunman. You can take them down with non-lethal means such as pepper spray, other types of spray, and also these electronic discharge weapons. So it's not necessarily that you put lethal armed guards into a school to keep this down. You just need to put some guards in there that have some means to subdue attackers. Now, let me say this. This young guy that shot all these guys at the Florida school, he was expelled from that school. So he had issues. Now, what happens is when you expel a student from school is you're saying, hey, this person has problems and we don't want to deal with them. So what happens is you're kicking the problem back to the parents. You're kicking the problem back to society because you are too busy to deal with the issues that young person is presenting. So expelling students from school, you're just asking for crap like this to happen. So whose fault was it? It was a fault of the principal. It was a fault of the school superintendent. And it was the fault of the teachers. Everyone should have noticed that this young man had problems, needed counseling, and they should have took the appropriate action that was necessary instead of expelling this young man and saying, I don't want to deal with this. They should have took the appropriate actions and got this young man some help. Perhaps he was abused at home. Perhaps he was indeed a sociopath. We know now that he was indeed a psychopath, sociopath with homicidal tendencies. That has been definitely confirmed since he shot 19 people. But like I said, it's a problem. It was caused by the principal and the teachers and the school district and the school superintendent not doing their job. They expel the student. In other words, they say, he's not our problem. He's somebody else's problem. We're getting rid of his ass. Bottom line is, you found out that indeed he was your problem. And you tried to get rid of it by expelling him. You don't do that. That's the same thing that happened with a military guy who got dishonorably discharged and put back into society, and he killed a bunch of people. Listen, When the military dishonorably discharges an individual, they are saying, we don't have time to deal with this individual, so we're going to throw him back out into society and let society deal with him. And society's not going to deal with him until he commits some sort of murder or mass murder or whatever. The bottom line to all of this is that organizations, people, corporations, military, schools are saying, we don't have time to deal with this, so we're throwing these issues onto other organizations or back out into society as a whole. Wrong. You need to take responsibility. When you've got a young man or a young woman comes into your school, you are responsible for that individual, regardless of whether or not they have special needs or not. If they got special needs and they need mental counseling, you need to get it to them. And you don't need to be expelling students just because they don't conform. You need to get somebody to work with them so that they can conform and they can do better and their problems can be worked out. That's the bottom line, is don't give your problems to somebody else. And it's the sexual harassment thing also. If you got some guy that's sexually harassing a lot of women, what the military will do is the military will transfer that individual. A military commander will transfer that individual to another unit. In other words, the military commander is saying, I don't want to deal with this, so I'm going to put this problem over on somebody else. Bottom line, military commander should be court-martialed himself and should lose all of his retirement and kicked out of the military. The bottom line is you need to take care of your own problems. And if you've got problem students in your schools, you need to take care of those problems. You need to get those students some help. If you do that, you're not going to have these school shootings. You go to any school, and the teachers and the principal and the coaching staff, they can, and the students in the school can tell you who the problem students are. Students that are loners, students that hang out with other loners, that wear trench coats and that wear black and that wear chains and who don't conform into with the other students and don't participate, who hang out in their little groups and are dark in their clothing and in their outlooks and in what they say. Those are students that have problems, and they need to be worked with so that the problems can be minimized and they can be integrated into the school system. Now, if you do this, if you work these issues, and don't be throwing your problems off on other organizations and other schools and society, if you work these issues, you are going to find that you're going to have a lot less problems. Now, if that young guy had not been expelled from that school, he would not have been pissed off and had a big-time attitude at that school, which resulted in these 19 people getting killed. The bottom line is he should have been helped. He should have been counseled. His parents should have been called in. If necessary, they could have sent the guy to some sort of mental institution, and they could have worked with state officials. But the school system, the principal and the teachers of that school decided, we don't have time to deal with this individual, this student, this young man. We don't have time to deal with his problems. So we're going to expel him and get rid of him and throw him back out into society. Well, let me tell you something, school system. Did you learn anything? Probably not. Are any of the other school systems in the United States going to learn anything from this issue? Probably not. That's why down the road, and it's not going to be too long in the future, another month, another couple of months, another 6 months, there's going to be another school shooting. And then after that, there's going to be another one. And down the pike, you're going to have one that sets records. And I'm talking about over 100 students killed, maybe over 200 students killed, and a bunch of teachers, maybe the principal also. So the bottom line is school systems, principals, superintendents, military commanders, corporation heads, leadership within companies, you need to deal with these problems that people have, and these people problems. You don't need to be throwing these problems out into society and saying, it's not my problem, I don't want to deal with it, so I'm going to expel this student, or I'm going to dishonorably discharge this young man or this young woman that came into the military expecting to be able to do good and serve their country. And when a student is enrolled in school, the school system, the teachers, the principals, the school superintendents, all have responsibilities for that student. And when they say, sorry, we're too busy to help this student, we got too many other things going on, they're not doing their jobs. So to the people in Florida at the school system, you let your students down. You let the parents who had students going to that school down. And they need to sue the hell out of you. The principal is responsible. The school district is responsible. And the teachers at that school are responsible. Okay? Now, there's some responsibility on the parents also, because they have parent-teachers association meetings. The parents should have been watching what's going on, and the students should have been telling the parents so-and-so got expelled, etc., etc., and that should have been discussed in PTA meetings, etc., etc. So the bottom line is the school system, the school failed the students, and they failed the parents, and they failed each other. The teachers failed the principal failed the teachers, the principal failed the school superintendent, as did the teachers, etc., etc. So they're all at fault. Don't blame it on this young man that was troubled and killed these 19 people. Sure, he's going to be tried as an adult, and he's going to be sentenced, and he's going to spend many, many years in prison. And I'm not saying that's wrong. But the bottom line is, don't blame it totally and completely upon him, because you people that I've mentioned were the ones that really failed him and failed all the other students and the ones that got killed. And my condolences to all the parents and the students, and I feel a lot of empathy for the ones that got killed. But it's going to happen again, over and over and over again, until these school systems learn to deal with their own problems and not be just, we don't have time to deal with it. It don't work that way. You're going to pay the price if you let that. Now, you can cross your fingers and hope that it don't happen in your school or in your school district, but it will happen if you continue to let this stuff go unattended to. Thanks a lot. You folks have a nice day.